Today, I'm going to tell you why you struggle to stay motivated at medical school and what you can do about it. So let's get right into it. Now, if you're a medical student, you know this. Medical school is long and it's difficult. It's not easy. So staying motivated and staying focused can be really difficult. At times, you may not be able to focus at all. So this video is going to give you some big picture advice and some practical tips that you can use to help you stay focused. First things first, if you're not working to a schedule, you're going to struggle to stay focused. Medical school is difficult, the content is a lot, the clinical demands are quite harsh, so if you haven't built good habits early on in working to a schedule, it's going to be really hard to keep yourself motivated. Once you have a schedule going and you've actually been working to it for a while, it becomes automatic for you to stick to that, and it takes a lot less motivation to actually get yourself working because it's just part of your daily routine. Now, I'm not saying you need to plan out every minute of your day. Have a set time that, okay, every day or every 2 days, I'm going to set aside an hour or two at night or in the afternoon, and you're going to work at that time. So make sure that you know at certain times of the day, you're going to schedule your work and you're going to keep to that schedule, because that really helps when you lose motivation if it's already become a habit. While having a schedule is useful, if you're not able to optimize what you do in that time that you've scheduled, you're also going to struggle to stay focused because you're going to feel like you're not getting a return on the effort you put in. So the second tip is optimize your actual study methods. If you work best in a group, find people to work with. If you work best alone, find times that work for you. If you don't work well reading, or you work better off videos or off tutorials, make sure that you spend your time productively following the methods that work best for you rather than following what works for someone else. Another thing that can make you struggle is if you haven't adapted your schedule to your current situation. I mean, in preclinical years, you're working mainly with content and you don't have clinical commitments, so you have more time to study. Now, if you take that same schedule of studying and working into your clinical years, you might struggle because now you've got additional commitments, like your clinical commitments. You may have calls, you're working during the day, so you have less time to study, and you've got to change up your schedule a bit. If you keep the same schedule from preclinical to clinical years, you might end up struggling. Or even between blocks, you may find that one block is really demanding, and you can't stick to that schedule that you had before because it demands too much of you. So you need to adjust to your current situation, and once you do that, you'll find it a lot easier to cope with the demands that are on you. The next one is about burnout and mental health. We all know that during medical school, at some point you're going to get sick, you may have a family emergency, you may have a mental health episode, you may be burned out, so you won't be able to work at your full capacity. But if you don't adjust your expectations and your schedule to your new capacity, you're also going to struggle to stay focused. Because not only are you burned out, you're now putting additional stress on yourself trying to keep to the schedule you had beforehand, which you're now not going to be able to fulfill. So what you've got to do if you're in a state of reduced capacity is take a step back, say, okay, I can't do what I did before right now. I can't do as much as I did, but I'm going to take a step back, analyze what I can do now, and make a new plan based on what I can do. And I know that sounds obvious, but if you're trying to do things that you physically and mentally cannot handle at the time, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And you're going to tank your motivation, and that's really not going to be helpful at all. So set measurable goals based on what you can do at the time, rather than focusing on the loss of capacity that you had before this happened. Another thing that can trip you up is if you have no physical representation of your goal to look at and to consult. Because, as I keep saying, medical school is really long, so keeping focus is difficult. Something like a list or a note to your future self, or a Pinterest board of things that you want for your life or of your goals. Something that you can actually take out and look at and consult with when you need motivation. Because if you don't have something like that, you don't have something to bring you back to your big goals, you're going to struggle to keep hold of them. So if you can keep your big goals in mind, it makes that day-to-day just slightly easier. And I'm speaking about big goals, so keeping big goals in mind is an easy thing to say, right? But sometimes you also get overwhelmed and you can't focus on the big goals because it's just too much to think about. You're barely coping day to day, but you're trying to focus on the big goals to get yourself through it, but that's just overwhelming you more. So sometimes you need to adjust your focus. Rather than focusing on, okay, I'm going to get through this so that I can get my degree or I can finish my internship, if that's overwhelming to you, then think about, okay, I'm just going to get through today, or I'm just going to get through this next task. Because if you can make it through the next task, or you can make it through the next day, and you can keep that short-term focus, then you'll be able to make it through whatever it is that's actually in front of you. If the day-to-day is overwhelming you, you can then shift your focus back to the larger goals. So what I'm trying to say is, you've got to learn to shift your focus based on where your mental space is. If you're overwhelmed by the day-to-day, focus on the bigger goal. But if the bigger goal is what's overwhelming you, then maybe try and focus more on the mundane day-to-day, because that can help take the pressure off. Now let me know down below if you have any other tips for staying focused, or if you struggle to stay focused. Let me know down in the comments as well. Make sure to leave a like if you liked the video, and make sure you subscribe to The Helper Medic for more medical student content tips and practical tips. Thanks everyone. See you next time.